How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day. It's a good old hump day. And today's discussion I'm going to be talking about is supporting your local community banks. It's what it's all about. Within the last year or two, I've been doing research. Definitely thanks to the Breakfast Club. I got to give credit where credit is due. People like Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy, Angela Yee. It definitely changed my perspective on how platforms like the Breakfast Club are created and broadcasted on a national level or multinational level, more so that financial literacy can become a part of the conversation for everyday people, whether they're rich, middle class, poor, everyday people. The conversation of financial literacy needs to be at the number one forefront on a regular basis. It should be up there with sports and up there with entertainment and reality stupid TV. And yes, I call it that because that's how I think about it, and I'll leave it at that. All right, so there's a lot of local community banks that are barely holding on to their strength and their financial capital nowadays. So that's another reason why I'm talking about this subject matter. No matter where you live, I'm sure that there's a local community bank that you most likely will not bank with. And hey, I get it. You've been banking with Chase Bank or Wells Fargo for the longest time, and you're like, hey, this is what I'm used to. I'm not trying to go a different direction. And people within the comfort zones, I always say, comfort zone is the death sentence. I'll leave it at that. Okay, now, with the power of the internet, it doesn't take much to open an account with a local community bank if you don't even happen to have a local community bank. A great example, I believe it was November of 2018, I opened my own bank account, my business bank account, with a community bank that doesn't even have one office within the state that I reside in, okay? And the main reason that I'm discussing this matter is because all the big banks that I have nothing against, like I said, full disclosure, I got nothing against big banks. I have bank accounts with big banks as well. So this isn't an anti-big banks or anything of that nature. Let's squash that nonsense. But big banks like, Citi, Capital One, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, etc. All I'm saying is that a lot of people, especially those who immigrate to the United States, take advantage of what incentives that local community banks have to offer. And I'm even going to cover just a little bit of those incentives. However, there's way more incentives that community banks, that people that work there and manage those banks can give you way more information than I could, because they deal with it on a regular basis. So I'm just giving the one-on-one aspects here. So, and one of the things that you can obtain by dealing with a local community bank, like I said, that a lot of people immigrate to the United States to take advantage of. It's more of a community mom and pop atmosphere, which me going into One United Bank, I felt like I was at home. They called me Mr. Patterson. It was awesome. I could go on and on. Not to say that these other banks don't have this great, personal and great customer service, because the big banks do, but it just felt like more of a more homely atmosphere. And even the bank manager came and talked to me and said, thank you for banking with us. Thank you for your business and all that good stuff. And of course, before I start my video, I always forget that one thing that, keeps the room nice and fresh. So I'm like, let's get rid of this. Okay, now back to what I was saying as far as the great personal relationships that you have. And then a lot of great times there's a lot of places you go to nowadays, it's not really those personal relationships, a lot of times, unless you just happen to frequent the establishments a lot. You never know, depending on the person and depending on the coast that you live in, or depending on the country that you live in. You just never know, right? I'm not going to put everything in one single box, but you develop great relationships with these banks, working relationships, possibly lead to more chances for one to get more access to capital. Access to capital, especially if you're a business person, is in a business person's best interest. We all know that. Capital for purchasing real estate, or capital for building up your business even more, purchasing more products, maybe getting access to different markets, all these things, depending on what your business is, it just depends, so that can increase your revenues. And obviously, if you have your business to increase your revenues, the money that you keep, not just the money that you spend to keep the business operating, Another story for a different day. So obvious that it's obvious that it's the point when you're in business, you're trying to make money, so let's just keep it real. like I said, nothing against the big banks. So just putting that out there once again. Now that we definitely live in a time when having actual relationships is kind of becoming a thing of the past, but relationships are and will continue to be relevant with or without with or without technology. Relationships are key because if you have a I always look at business like this. If you have a great working relationship with somebody and you've done a great deal with them or a great multitude of deals with them, then obviously you want to keep conducting business with this individual because it is hard to find good, honest people to do business with, especially nowadays because everybody's just in it for themselves. And, just people like to be a lot more shadier nowadays, but have a nice grin on their face while they're doing it. But another story for another day. So that is, to me, that's a beautiful thing, having those kind of relationships, and because here's the thing, it's funny me reading Elon Musk's book, about his life story, and I'm just halfway through it, and it amazes me every time I learn something new about Elon Musk and people like Elon Musk because, they, like myself, quote unquote, the introverts, quote unquote, the outside of the box thinkers and livers, and, they live differently and willing to risk it all, continuously go after your dreams. And remember, if you're not willing to risk it all, then you're not really ready to go after your dreams. But that's just my personal opinion, and I'll leave it at that. Like, I'm willing to risk it all, making a big move, and just trying something different, because I'm going after my dreams. So I encourage everybody to implore everybody to continuously go after your dreams, no matter what anybody says, because usually if they're going 100% against your dreams, then you're around the wrong people. But that's just my personal opinion on that one as well. So. Back to the story at hand. What is it? So even the most introverted app creators and engineers will have to eventually present their ideas to investors and banks, etc. It goes back to Elon Musk's story. He had to eventually get in front of, even though he was quote unquote a weirdo / introverted individual who didn't have the best presentation skills at the time, he had to get in front of investors in order for him and his brother and his friends' dreams to transpire and to continuously grow and to even exist. So that's a great way of looking at it. So you need to be able to build decent relationships, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. And now, let's get into some of the benefits of community banks, versus big banks and all that good stuff. Like I said, I'm not saying one's better than the other, but right now I'm just on the pro community bank tip. And I'm not saying you don't have to have I say, hey, say if you have a job and a business, have your job through your community bank and then your business through a big bank or vice versa, whatever have you, whatever works for you. Just throwing these suggestions out there. It's your life at the end of the day. It's your choices. I'm just putting a little bit of the information out there, and you are the intelligent individual that makes the life decision for yourself. So I look at it like that. So when you get into it, big banks have more assets than local banks. This is very true. But they don't have a lock on the largest markets of customers. And that's where a lot of the small community banks come into play. Providing that, and then one thing I want to not only provide, but to prove, like I said, I'm not a hypocrite. I do have a bank account with One United Bank. So I bank with the big banks. I bank with the community banks. I do both. One goes hand in hand. One serves a purpose and the other one serves a purpose. So just think on that level. If you want to continuously keep your Bank of America, Wells Fargo account, there's nothing wrong with that. Just have both. Get dual with it. My personal opinion. But I'm just putting, that's that full transparency I'm putting out there. So community banks are responsible for more than, this was very interesting when I found this out there, they're responsible for more than half of the small business loans in the United States of America. I thought that was very interesting all at the same time. They can also make more than about 80% of that. They actually make more than 80% of the agricultural loans. So people who own farms, farmlands, of any farm business industry out there, they make majority of the loans to those industries. So they're helping keeping those industries alive, and I think that's pretty cool, in my personal opinion. Just keeping it real on that one. I was like I just found it to be very astounding. So, and they also make more than about They also do a great job of helping rebuild communities all at the same time, trying to create different incentives for people to invest in those communities, whether it's just buying house, whether it's just putting a business there. They're actually out there fighting for, whether it's in the rural communities or it's in the inner city, they're actually fighting for communities to ensure that their existence are alive, because obviously without those communities, they don't exist. So it just kind of, it's that partnership. It goes hand in hand, and I think that's a great thing. When you really look into it. And the report that I found, it says that people are most likely to rank the community banks much higher than several of the other bigger banks. And I just thought that was amazing, because great example. The article stated that community banks scored the highest in categories for tellers and staff and courtesy and helpfulness. Which is the experience I got at One United Bank. And basically they rated them at 91. And the speed of financial transactions, they gave them about an 88. So customers also gave community bank scores that exceed 80 in categories like website satisfaction, call center satisfaction, and ease of adding and changing accounts. So it just made things that much more easier, especially if you just sometimes, and even myself, hey, I'm a millennial, but sometimes I just want to talk to somebody face to face and get clarification. I don't want everything to just be over the phone and online. Okay, so that's how I look at it. And it went into, the article also stated that typically local banks focus on assisting and building up the local communities, like I said earlier. And that's a beautiful thing. You want to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. You're contributing something to yourself, but it's nice to not just be so selfish and be so self-absorbed. It's nice to help others and contribute to others by not giving them a hand out, but giving them a hand up. And I'm all about the hand up. So while a big bank usually prefers to work with large established businesses and might have policies that favor individuals who can make hefty deposits, a community bank is going to focus its attention on supporting small businesses in local areas across the United States. Community banks lent more, and this was a survey done back, I can't believe it was 9 years ago, back in 2010, that community banks lent more than $3.5 billion, and that was at the height of the recession. So that's something to, be commendable on. Give a round of applause, because, community banks help keep a lot of communities alive, and that's just one of those things. That's what I said. It's like, I'm all about the support for the community banks, all about the support for them. I think we should continue it, and please just do your part. It's a simple opening up an account, maybe contributing $20 to $30 a month to that account. Just small stuff in life, man. It really helps, but that's just, I'm advocating for them here, so I'm just going to call it like I see it. So community banks, they often put the focus on supporting small local companies and residents because they have close ties to the areas they serve. And that's the thing. It's like, I want to be more engaged and involved with my community. And when it comes down to my favorite part of the community is the financial aspect. So community banks are often small businesses themselves. So they understand the challenges many local business owners face, especially in the beginning stages and you're trying to start out and even just make a profit. They want to ensure your success, because obviously it's a partnership. Your success is their success, and vice versa. Excuse me, a little parched. And I just look at it like that. And and this is really the bottom of it. I mean, bottom line of it, when it comes to community banks, And a lot of times when it comes to facing problems and concerns, they're going to find a way out, because like I said, their success is your success. And before I close out, here's a list. So there's the number one bank I'm going to advocate for is the one I bank with. So One United Bank. And do your research. I'm not a financial. Therefore, I'm not saying go open a One United Bank account, everything's going to work out great and all that good stuff. No, that's not what I'm saying. I said that's who I bank with, my community bank. And it's one you might want to look into. And I'm going to read off a list of community banks throughout the United States. But the beauty thing is, like I said, this bank's not even located in the state that I reside in, but because of the beautiful power of technology, I can still bank with them and have no issue. So that's why I'm just saying the power of technology allows one to help a community bank stay alive, even if they don't even live in that specific community. So my personal opinion, I'll leave it at that. So let's start off with a bank that's in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Love good old Georgia. Omega Psi Credit Union. Check them out. Phi Beta Sigma Federal Credit Unions in Washington, D.C. Good old DMV area. One United Bank, as you see here. Los Angeles, California. FAMU Federal Credit Union. It's in Tallahassee, Florida. Credit Union of Atlanta, obviously it's in Atlanta, Georgia. North Milwaukee State Bank is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And a place is in Chicago, Illinois. Seaway Bank, the Harbor Bank, which is in Baltimore, Maryland, B-More, Liberty Bank, which is in New Orleans, Louisiana. Definitely can't wait to go to New Orleans for the first time. United Bank of Philadelphia, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, obviously. Al America Bank, which is in Birmingham, Alabama. Broadway Federal Bank, which is in Los Angeles, obviously. They figured Broadway would be in New York. Anyways, Carver State Bank, which is in Savannah, Georgia. Capital City Bank, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. Citizens Trust Bank, Atlanta, Georgia. City National Bank, Newark, New Jersey, good old Jersey. Commonwealth National Bank, Mobile, Alabama. Industrial Bank, which is in the Washington, D.C. area. First Tuskegee Bank, which is in Tuskegee, Alabama. Mechanics and Farmers Bank, which is in Durham, North Carolina. First Independence Bank, Detroit, Michigan, good old D-Town. First State Bank, which is in Danville, Virginia, good old Southern Virginia, nothing wrong with that. Illinois Service Federal, which is in Chicago, Illinois. Unity National Bank, Houston, Texas, another favorite town of mine, good old H-Town, that's how they get down. Carver Federal Savings Bank, New York, New York. One United Bank, my bank once again, which is in Miami, Florida, Boston, Massachusetts. Tri-State Bank, Memphis, Tennessee. Citizens Bank, Nashville, Tennessee. South Carolina Community Bank, Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia Savings and Loan, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Liberty Bank, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Kansas City, Missouri. Citizens Trust Bank, Birmingham, Alabama. Liberty Bank, Liberty. I'm just kidding. Chicago, Illinois, and they have one in Jackson, Mississippi. Toledo Urban Credit Union, which is obviously in Toledo, Ohio. And last but not least, Hill District Credit Union, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I've listed a magnitude of banks. And I got the list right here for you. An exuberant amount of banks that are across the United States. So one does not have an excuse. Even though you have the power of the internet where you can just go online and open up an account in any one of these banks, even if they're not in your home state. And most people bank online anyways and don't ever set foot in a bank unless they, really need to when it comes to a home loan or when it comes to a any sort of loan, obviously. So, you have that. And then, of course, if you want to still build those relationships. But I've listed banks that are across the United States of America. Have your pick, please. That's all I can say. Have your pick, do your research, and don't just go by what somebody else says. Sometimes you just have to go through life and get the experience. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, the life's all about getting good and bad experiences, because without the bad, you can't really appreciate the good. And I leave it at that. And then obviously you can't even get the good, you can't even really appreciate the good. So with that being said, and last but not least, you can't really grow without any pain. So that's just what it is. Life is like working out. No pain, no gain. If you go to the gym and you do the same routine, I guarantee for the most part your body's going to maintain, but it's not going to progress. So life is the same way. If you're constantly just banking with the same bank and not trying to look into other avenues, if you're not trying to look into other business opportunities, if you're just working a job and think that everything's going to be hunky-dory and all good and all that good stuff, you are living in the 1970s and it will never come back. So that's all I can say on that one. Evolve or disappear. We all must grow and we all must learn. I learn something new every day, and learning more about this list of community banks made me just say I got to make a video about this. So hopefully if you guys like the video, please share, please subscribe. Check out my online store whenever you get a chance. You might see some products on there, and you can always get that official Larry's Anything Goes now hat, coffee cups, and obviously shirts, t-shirts. And remember this, you can't get fired if you own the company. So in 2019, we're halfway through, people. Please open your company, get your dreams and goals going. And if you're trying to get promoted and whatnot on a job, great. Just always say, have a backup plan. Don't just be normal, be abnormal. It's pretty cool, in my personal opinion. And doing great things, and I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.